Welcome to another exciting episode of the Contractor Business Builder podcast. We have the honor of hosting Rick Storlie, founder of Builder Lead Converter. More than 70% of consumers now prefer to learn through video content, and your competitors may already be showing up first. In this episode, Rick's going to reveal how short form video and AI can revolutionize how contractors generate and convert stronger leads in today's changing market. So welcome here, Rick. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks, Derek. I appreciate being on. Looking forward to the conversation.
Definitely. So the online marketing landscape always, shifting, changing, always something new. AI is the big thing nowadays. What are you seeing as far as the shifts or changes that are coming up around the corner?
My background actually is I started on a job site as a construction laborer and then moved up through framing. And then I ended up getting into sales to start with. And so my background, I look at it from a sales perspective. And so one of the things I always try to figure out, Derek, is like, why do some leads buy and some don't? And I was tracking my conversions when I was selling, and I was always at 50%, meaning that if I had like what I would call ready, willing, and able buyer sitting in front of me, I would always get, if I had two of them, I would get one. If I had 10, I would get five. And I was like, why is it? Why can't I get more than that? And what it came down to, is looking at is like the journey that the lead, as they go to find information on the type of project they want to build. So let's just say we're talking design, build, remodeling, custom home building, how they get ultimately to a builder really determines if they're going to convert or not. So when I started, and I'm not going to date myself, but it was in the 80s as I started as a framer. I started selling in the early 90s. There was no internet. Okay. So really it was like we had a show home, model home, whatever you want to call it. People would go out and look around. They would interview builders. They would maybe look for referrals. There was no Google reviews. There was, no social media. There was no internet, so it was very archaic. So it was a long sales cycle. But one thing it allowed me to do, Derek, is really to study human nature and behavior and what is the process that a league goes through to vet builders and vet information. And so fast forward to 2025, almost 2026 as we're talking today.
Mhm.
Yes, AI has become part of that vetting process. Yes, traditional search. Yes, Google reviews. Video is what we are looking at as like the next revolution for home builders and remodelers. And the good news about video and AI and all this stuff is that it's really leveling the playing field, because if you're a guy doing, let's say, $1 to $5 million worth of volume in your local market, and you've got these bigger, larger builders out there doing double, triple, quadruple what you're doing, they oftentimes were able to really captivate or capture a marketplace just by buying it, right? I can buy all the ad space. They can spend tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars more than you can, and you don't even get the opportunity because you're losing to these bigger guys. So what's happening now, Derek, is because of AI and AI search, generative engine optimization, what it's called, because of what's happening with video and the way consumers are using it, it's really leveling the playing field. So you no longer can buy a market like you used to, and it's coming. It's not quite here yet. It's coming. And so that's really the revolution that we see for home builders going forward, if they're willing to take the leap into this next form of marketing.
Yeah, video just continues to come stronger and stronger and is really a preferred method for a lot of people nowadays looking to do some, research or find out things. I know even, it's not just like YouTube or social media, just doing a Google search, the AI is going to pop up. The AI is going to have videos embedded in it sometimes, or there's going to be a number of videos to go watch about something. And it's definitely popping up a lot more, I find, just from the searches that I've been doing. So can you walk us through what you mentioned, this kind of leveling the playing field with, smaller builders being able to utilize videos. What does small form, short form video look like for builders, and how can they utilize it?
So, definition of short form video is typically going to be any video that's less than 1 minute. And where it really became popular was TikTok. So, as you as a builder, you're listening to us, are like, what does TikTok have to do? My clients don't use TikTok. Like, that's what kids use, right? Well, what has happened is that TikTok became a very, very popular platform for kids. And then Meta, or Facebook and Instagram, noticed that, and they were losing market share on social media to these kids because they were not optimizing video. So lo and behold, along comes Reels. So now if you go on Facebook, you have Reels, Instagram, you have Reels. And then if you look at YouTube, now you have Shorts. And now you look at the feed, or when you're on your app, you will see that these platforms are now highlighting, they're really pushing these short form videos. So typically the video is going to be somewhere between 10 to 60 seconds. They can get longer now. It's sort of like when Twitter started. Remember, it was like 140 characters or less, and then they kept increasing the number of characters now on X that you can promote out there. So that's what's happening with short form video. But short form video, the most important part of the video is the first 8 seconds, because it's like an email. When you send an email, if the subject line is not compelling, you don't open the email, right? So it doesn't matter how good the body of the email is if they don't open it. And then when in email, you had to have a preview pane, which would show you, like, say, here's the first sentence of the email. So you had to, when you putting together an email, you had to make sure you had a really compelling message that would show up in that preview pane. Well, short form video now, the compelling message is the thumbnail. Does that video title, is it compelling where I want to click and watch the video? Is the first 8 seconds hold my attention? And then ultimately, can I keep that person engaged for anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds watching that video? And then there's a formula that we follow. We can get into it, if you want to, in that particular video. But video does something that there's no other online tool that video does, in that as we communicate, like right now we're communicating, we're on video, right? So you can hear my spoken word, you can hear my tone of voice, and then you can also see my body language. So that's the three forms of how we communicate. So video is the only online medium that allows you to do all three. So that's why it's so compelling. And then when you add in, say, music, when you add in some visual elements that are stimulating there as well, when you add in a nice narration voice, again, using that tone of voice and body language, videos can become very, very compelling. And what's happening now, Derek, is that because of going back to TikTok with the teenagers we're using, and now how that is elevated up into Meta and YouTube Shorts, consumers today, about 72% to be exact, they prefer to use short form video to find information on products and services. Okay, so that is the statistic that home builders and remodelers need to keep in mind, because when that local homeowner in your marketplace, or want to be homeowner that wants to build a home, when they're looking for information, they prefer to go to video. So they prefer to find information. And the way it works, and this is something that builders oftentimes don't understand, Derek, is that builders think that the leads look for a builder first. That's not how they work. They look for information first. The first thing that they always want to know is, what can I build? Because they can't visualize. They can't visualize floor plans. That's why we build show homes and model homes. They can't visualize what their kitchen could transform into. That's why we have showrooms and vignettes and things. So that's the first point that they're looking for, is information on what they can build. And once they find that, the second question is how much? And then the third question usually is location. In other words, do you as a builder serve this particular location of either where my home is located or where I want to build a home? And then the last point is they'll start vetting builders. So that's the process it goes through. So most of your video content is really not going to be on you as a builder. It's going to be answering and providing information on the locations you serve, on project price points, or the opportunity to get budgeting information. And then mostly it's going to be design.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And video gives that opportunity to really have someone become familiar with you and your business in a short period of time. Like, just reading an article online or going to your website. Maybe there's some pictures of you or your team, and there's some familiarity there. But once you get on video and they see you talking, and they, know how you present yourself, and if you give them useful information, by the time they reach out to you, they're extremely warm already. And it's not a cold conversation. Essentially, they already understand kind of your business, and see value in what you can bring to the table. Now, as a builder, if I'm thinking this sounds like a lot, Rick, like I've got to figure out, how to capture attention, create these short videos, do the editing, do the sound, add music. What do I talk about? What would be your advice for someone who's never really done video, maybe a little bit, shy to get on camera because it just is a bit awkward to them? How would you tell someone, like, to get started and kind of keep that simple to to learn the ropes of this?
Yeah, up until about 6 months ago, if you wanted to really get into video, you probably had to have a camera crew on site. You were going to have a day or two in the month where you're going to block out time. You're going to go shoot, a lot of footage. Then that particular crew is going to take it back and they're going to do a massive amount of editing and they're going to produce a bunch of videos for you. And you're probably going to be spending somewhere between, on the very entry level end, like maybe $3,000-$4,000 a month. On the high end, maybe $10,000 a month, to produce this because it's really a full production. Now, that was up until about 6 months ago. Today, if I'm a builder and I want to get started in video, I need one thing, and that is a photo of one of your projects. That's it. Everything else can be done using AI. And here's the really ironic thing about it, Derek, is that, and you mentioned it before this, the reason video is so compelling is because you bring a human element into your message, right? Because your lead is still going to buy from you based on an emotional attachment to you and or your services you provide. Then they will logically justify it. So what that video allows you to do is create an emotional attachment online, which is very, very difficult to do through a written social media post or blog post or just content on your website. Even a photo. You've heard the term, well, a photo tells 1,000 words, a video tells 1,000,000. So it creates that compelling message, creates that human interaction. And ironically, the thing about it is like I'm using AI, artificial intelligence, to create a human connection between you as the builder and your prospective client. Now, what happens then is that video starts to do two things. Number one, it starts to establish trust between you and your client because if they don't trust you, they will not contact you. And number two, it starts to build value. So again, if you look at going back to that initial question, why do some leads buy and some don't? The reason a lead does not buy is that they have not established value for your product or service as a builder. So I like to use this analogy, Derek. When you sit down with your client and you have your pricing, your specifications, and maybe even your design done. You're sitting on one end of the table and you've got all these paperwork in front of you. And on the other end of the table, there's your client or prospective client, and they've got a stack of cash. And that cash is the exact amount that you have on the bottom of your price sheet. And so what you are doing is you're going to push forward your plans and specs and design to them, and they're going to push their cash towards you. So when the lead looks at those two things as being equal, that means value has been established. You're going to make a sale. If they feel like your plans and specs are worth more than the cash that they are exchanging, you're going to make the sale. If they feel like their cash is worth more than your plans and specs, guess what? Value has not been established. You're not making the sale. So value as an equation is simply price performance divided by quality perception. It's the perception that the video allows to create the value and ultimately the trust. So you've got to establish value and trust online. And then when you have a conversation, whether that's on the phone or face-to-face with that lead, that's where you as a builder confirm it. So you're exactly right. You can do so much stuff online through video before you ever have a conversation with your lead. And it takes a cold lead who's not aware of you at all. It creates that human connection. They start to see value and trust. And it's very much a warm call when you first meet them. Very much like a referral almost, Derek, where they go very quickly then into whether it's design or, estimating or even buying like a spec home.
Definitely. Yeah, there's a whole like nurture kind of window there for a lot of clients, like you mentioned, where they're looking for information, all of these things where normally they wouldn't even reach out to a builder.
Mm-hmm.
But with video, you're already establishing that relationship and creating that nurturing of the client to, elevate your brand or and I would assume that the quality of the clients that have seen videos would improve. How can maybe videos be geared towards specific clients, or what would be some, I guess, additional, I don't know if tactics is the right word, but there's obviously like call to actions and certain things, but how can those videos then translate into someone, connecting with the building company?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So there's a journey that the client takes. So think of you're going to have videos that are going to accomplish different things based on where the client is. So we find in our statistics of when leads are captured, roughly 20 to 40% are ready to talk right away. So you have 10 leads, we will pretty much book 2 to 4 appointments right away for our builder partners. They're going to get on a phone call. They're going to finish the qualification process. They will decide, yes, I want to move forward with you, or no, you're not the right fit. Next. Okay. So what, if you look at that backwards now, what it means is 60 to 80% of the leads you capture are not ready to talk. So what happens is that you have an offer. Okay. So your offer typically for builders is call me on the phone or fill out this form if you want information. It's not a very good offer, right? So that's why most leads who are not ready to talk, they never engage the builder. So what a video does is, yeah, it allows them to engage you without having to have a conversation. Remember, the vast majority of people that are on your website today don't want to talk to you yet. They're still in that information gathering stage. So as a builder, what you want to do is establish yourself as the local go-to expert for design, for budget information, for all things building, right? Just educate me. What is it? How do I build a custom home? You know, obviously you could write, people have written books on that. Like, what is design, build, remodeling? How does this work? And so you want to be the go-to resource. So your first videos are really focused on attracting high quality leads. So those are going to be much more information heavy, a lot of FAQs, a lot of maybe tips and things to avoid. So we break those videos down as really to 4 specific areas. So 1 is going to be design. 2 is what drives price. 3 is like, if you're into home building, is choosing a location. Like, how do I find land? How do I evaluate it? That sort of thing. And then 4 is going to be ultimately picking a builder. Okay. What are some things I should be considering as I choose a builder? So yes, you're going to educate leads on how to evaluate builders, even though you're a builder, because if you do that and they look at you as the local expert, now they're going to start looking at you, instead of being like, well, what's your price per square foot? They're going to look at you and they're going to say, you look like the local expert. You look like somebody that, you know, and you provided me a lot of information. So I'm now looking at you as more of an advisor versus what's your price per square foot. So there's a switch that flips where they go from how much project or home can I get for how little money to what's the next step, Derek? What's the next step? Because they still have that question. Well, what can I get for, and how much is it going to cost? But once they trust you as an advisor, they're going to move into more of an advisor-advisee relationship, and they're going to look to you for guidance. So that's the key. So that's the attract phase, is just providing information, providing it in a format they want it, and giving them, making it accessible 24/7 on multiple platforms. So Google Business Profile, social media channels, your website, your blog, every channel out there possible. Just make it available for the consumer wants. So that's number 1. Then the next phase is the capture phase. Okay, so I attract these people. Now I have to start a relationship with them. I have to capture them as a lead. That's a different offer. So now what you're doing is you're going to give them a specific opportunity to engage you. Okay, so that might be asking a question on a AI chat widget on a website. It might be going through creating a scope of work and wanting, scheduling a call to get a budget. It might be just downloading an idea book for design ideas, or maybe looking at floor plans. So we call those lead magnets. So there's different videos there. And then the third phase is conversion. So I have attract, capture, and now I have to convert that captured lead into a call. So that's a different type of video there as well. The process is an old sales process. It's just called the controlled release of information. So I'm giving just enough information to engage the lead and want them to learn more, but not too much so they don't want to take the next step. So it's an old sales technique. I'm sure you've heard of it, Derek. And so when we get to the conversion part of it, again, you now as the builder are the carrot, because you have the answers that they're looking for. You've given them some answers, but in order to get really specifics for their project, they need to talk to you. And that's what we do, is just give them a compelling reason to get on the phone, and then you take it from there.
Wonderful. Thanks for walking through that, and also the kind of internal dialogue of a client. And as you mentioned, you kind of want to flip that switch from how much, can I get, or what can I build, to what's the next step? How do I, get tailored specific advice from someone, and then using video as sort of that funnel mechanism to draw in the right clients. Now, your team there, you guys also handle qualifying leads and booking appointments and some other services around that. Can you maybe walk through after, what's the process there? What kind of services do you provide around that, and what should builders be thinking about once the client has engaged the builder with filling out a form or calling, the phone line?
Yeah, excellent question. I think the first thing to do is, it's just, you need to have a paradigm shift as a builder. A lot of builders say, well, I need to generate more leads. So if I push back on that builder and said, well, I can get you 100 leads off of Facebook tomorrow, but they're all going to be crap. Do you really just want to generate leads, or do you want to acquire clients? High quality, highly profitable clients. There's a big difference. So what we really focused on is client acquisition. So yes, we want to generate leads, but we want to generate high quality leads that have a high point of conversion. So there's three ways to do that. One is you have your traditional presence, digital presence, and then you have offline tools. So think of a job site sign, truck wrap. That's just an offline tool to bring more people to your online digital presence. And your online digital presence is really like if you're a custom builder, it's your online show home or model home. If you're a remodeler, it's your online showroom. And so that's where your website needs to be engaging. It needs to be interactive, and it needs to really be lead centric. So again, Derek, what I see more often now when I'm talking with builders and I look at their websites are builder centric. They're designed, it's like a brochure for the builder. That's not what your leads are interested in. Remember, they're not looking for a builder first, they're looking for information. So you have to switch and provide that information. So your digital presence is one of your main pipelines that people are going to find you. But then there's also business to business and client referrals. So you need to have a pipeline there. And then finally, you need to have a database management. So as I mentioned before, 20 to 40% of the leads will convert right away. You're going to get on a phone call with them and you're going to qualify them. They're farther along in the process. They're ready to talk. 60 to 80% are not. So if the website is set up correctly for lead capture, remember we have attract, capture, and convert. So if we're capturing a higher percentage of leads, guess what? We need then to build a follow-up and nurturing process to establish value and trust over time. And that could be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. And we've had clients that have 5 years have nurtured people and then ultimately sold them a $2 million custom home. So you just have to meet the client where they're at. So again, give them a reason to start a relationship with you. And if they're not ready to talk, that's fine. What we find, Derek, is that the lead is not necessarily comparing a builder against their competitor. You're being compared to their favorite place to do business. And so if you look at it from the online marketplace, I always use Amazon as an example. Why is Amazon so popular? Okay, well, it's an app. It's an easy to use website. If they say it's going to be there in 2 days, you want to look at reviews, you can do that. There's clear communication via email, push notifications, however you want to use it. There's a high trust level there with people, and they use Amazon over and over and over again. So you need to create like an Amazon-like experience, which means that if a lead does get captured by you, I always ask this question to builders, I said, well, how soon should you follow up? I usually hear like, well, within 24 hours. It's like, well, okay, well, what if it's Friday at 6 p.m., and you've got a production meeting Monday morning, so now you're looking at 72 hours. So what do you think they're doing in that 72 hours? They're reaching out to your competitors. So what we focus on is like, okay, they should be followed up within 1 minute. So that's the system that we build. And we don't follow up for our clients. We build a system where we follow up on behalf of them. So everyone has a digital AI assistant. So they name their assistant Jessica or Sam or whoever, and that assistant will follow up after hours. That assistant will get into conversations, answer basic questions, but the primary job of the assistant is to book an appointment. And then once we have an appointment booked, we're going to start doing some initial qualifying through your assistant. So all follow-up is done on behalf of the builder. So the lead feels like, oh, I'm really important. The builder's reaching back out to me, even though this is either AI to do it. And if you make them feel like they are the most important person in the world while they're still a lead, what you're doing psychological is that you're planting the seed for how well they will be treated as a client. If you follow up poorly as a lead, you are also setting the seed that they're probably not going to have a really good experience with you. And remember, they're trying to shop by process of elimination. They might look at 30 builders' websites, but they only want to talk to 1, 2, or 3. So if you're not doing all this right, you're just giving them ammunition to say, nah, crossing you off the list. I'm going to the next one. And that's the thing that drives me crazy is when you never get an opportunity to have a conversation because you might be a perfect fit. But because of issues, I call them opportunity leaks you have in your system, you're losing those opportunities. And now you're scrambling because you can't fill your production pipelines and you're cutting margins or you're, having to let go some of your guys. I mean, that's the roller coaster part of this business is you don't have even flow.
Yeah, definitely. Those first impressions so critically important. Following up in a very short window of time. What is their impression of the company? Do you look professional? Do you walk them through step by step, or do they need to they're not going to continue to reach out to you typically if you like you said you have those opportunity leaks along the way. And then I think one thing where a lot of builders can drop the ball is that whole nurture sequence because especially new homes, custom homes, multi-million dollar homes, like those ideal type of clients, there's often a very long sales cycle window there, and you want to be early in the conversation for them as soon as possible and have that nurture so the trust is super high. And then when they do reach out. Like you mentioned, you need those systems in place, those people in place to be able to make sure that lead gets the red carpet treatment. They feel appreciated. They feel like this is a professional company. They're organized and they know what they're doing, essentially at the end of the day. Can you walk us through maybe the journey of a client of yours who got started, maybe wasn't using video or using video ineffectively, how you help them get that sort of magnetic, attraction for clients, and then what the outcomes were as far as improving their lead flow and book projects?
Yeah, it's so video. It's important for everyone to understand is video is yeah, it's a wonderful tool. Of course, it has its limitations. So if video, we call it how do you get from views to say appointments? One video will not do that. But what one video will do is it will capture attention, it will build an emotional attachment. You give them a clear call to action of what's the next step, and most importantly, offer them something of value. So in other words, you can't just say, "Hey, here's a great look at this wonderful kitchen that I just designed and built. Isn't it cool? Call me." Okay, a couple people might call you, but most people are going to be like, "Nah, next." So really, what you have to focus on is again, when you want to start a relationship with somebody, you have to say, "I'm going to give you something first." Again, I'm going to give you something first that you see of value. So that call to action at the end of the video should be something like, "Visit our website and download our idea book where you'll be inspired by the latest design trends and for custom homes and remodeling." Okay. So what did I just tell my lead? I'm a resource. I want to give this to you, and the only thing I ask in return from you is to get your contact information and permission to follow up from you. And again, that's a negotiation. So when that lead looks at it and says, "Well, I have a really high value proposition for this idea book or this planning guide or this enhanced design library," or even just having a conversation with a chatbot to ask some basic questions, to kind of point me in the right direction. As long as they value that more so than your contact information and permission to follow up with you, they are going to engage you. Now, some will book an appointment right away and you'll be talking to them in 2 days. Others, like I said, it can be 2 years. But the idea here is just meet them where they're at. Meet them where they're at. Give first, then ask for something in return. Give them just enough to want to maintain a relationship with you. And most importantly, what we say our guarantee is with all of our clients, Derek, is that every lead buys or dies. I mean, we're going to follow up with them until they buy from you, they buy from somebody else, or they decide not to do the project. But you can never stop. So that long-term nurturing sequence, that is a huge component that builders are missing. And the other thing that we add to that is every 90 days, we are doing a re-engagement, or where we're taking those cold and aging leads, we're giving them a special offer to get them to raise their hand or even get face-to-face with the builder. Because like you said, I'm planning for a $3 million custom home. I'm maybe just going to spend a year and a half just gathering ideas and trying to figure out what I like. And I don't want to be sold anything, right? That's what people lead say. But I'm looking for resources. So if you can be a resource when I'm ready to talk and I look at you as the local expert, you're at least going to get a shot, and that's all you can ask for, right? Just give me an opportunity to have a conversation. Let me see if it's a good fit. And if it is, great, we'll move forward. And that's where people can go very quickly. But if you look back at the history of that, they've been following you for a year and a half. You've been feeding them incrementally over a year and a half. And that takes content, consistency, multiple platforms. So SMS, text messaging, social media, blog posts, emails, content that they find is relevant and valuable. Because you can't just say over and over again, "Are you ready to build? Are you ready to build?" They'll be like, unsubscribe, delete, nope, I'm gone. But if it's like, "Hey, here's what to consider in design. Here's the things that can drive price. Here's things that you need to factor in when you're choosing a location. These are some questions you should be asking for picking a builder." You provide all that, you're very relevant. And I'm willing to take that information. And of course, the higher the quality of information, the more engagement and the top of mind awareness sticks. And that's what you really want is like, I maybe need to stay top of mind with this person for 2 years before they're ready to have a conversation. So every lead buys or dies. Yeah. So long-term nurturing. So it is a system. So videos are part of a system. You're just handing off from that attract phase to the capture phase to the conversion phase. The conversion phase can happen in 2 days or 2 years. You just don't know. So that's the one that takes the most amount of hand holding.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And as you mentioned, it's a pipeline, it's a conveyor, and you want to make sure that everything is optimized. There's a system in place, and you also have the tracking to know where maybe things aren't optimal or where they can be improved. So we're going to put a link to the website for Builder Lead Converter in the show notes here in the description. whether you're listening or watching this. So go check that out. Rick, what's the best way for people to reach out to you and your team to learn more about your services and how you can help them generate better quality leads and capture, new clients?
Builderleadconverter.com.
Perfect. And I'm assuming they can book a call there or get in touch with your team.
Yeah, the place to start is to book a strategy call and you'll meet with me. I'll take 20, 30 minutes just to learn as much as I can about your business, where you've been, where you're at right now, and where you want to go. And our best clients, our most successful clients are ones that are working with coaches too, Derek. So, that's because you're in the right mindset to actually grow and try new things. And that's what it comes down to is you have to sort of break out of some of the traditional paradigms and, try new things and put yourself out there. And like anything else, it's a year. When you jump into this is not like an overnight thing. It's a year, but it's amazing the results you'll see even earlier than that. We've had some guys that have launched and 2 weeks later, like they got a client, and like a high-end custom home client through the system. So the more established you are as a builder, like if you've been around for 5+ years, you'll see results faster. If it's less than 5 years, I always say it's about a year, but boy, you see a lot of results in year 2, year 3, and then you get that consistency in your pipeline. Because it all comes down to is like you have so much production you can produce each year. Now, how much design clientele do you need in order to fill those production slots? If you overbook your design, you can handle a cancellation. It won't affect that. And then you can create a backlog. And you know as well as I do, Derek, is that people want what everybody else has. So they say, oh, you're really busy. You have a 6, 8, 12-month backlog. They're like, I must be talking to the right guy, And so then they'll want to jump on. So that's the key is it's creating that backlog. That means that you can focus on profitability, you can focus on internal systems, you can focus on scaling your business and doing it the right way.
Definitely. Yeah. Very much on the same page there. Have high demand for your service, for your company, and then be able to not necessarily cap it, but you utilize that demand in a way that you're not just trying to blow up your company and meet all that production, but actually having projects scheduled out and be able to position yourself with clients that there's a process here, we are in demand, and you can even out your production, your cash flows, all that kind of stuff. So
Exactly.
definitely
I call it, I don't know what you call it. I call it slot selling is where
okay.
your production
Yep.
drives your marketing. So in other words, if you say, okay, our average sales price is, let's say you're a custom home builder, our average sales price is $1 million a year, or $1.5 million. We can produce 6 homes or 8 homes or 10 homes a year. Okay. So that becomes your production slots. Now you work that backwards and you go into design and say, well, okay, I've got 8 of my 10 slots filled. So now you create scarcity or urgency through scarcity. I've only got 2 more slots. I've got 4 people in design. Who's going to step up? And that's what keeps things going. So you don't have those periods of time where you have open slots and then you're trying to think, oh, how am I going to keep my guys busy? I'm going to lose this crew that I love to somebody else, and how do I get them back? I mean, it's a real headache, obviously, and that's where builders make bad decisions when it comes to bringing on new work.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to avoid is create that backlog so that you always have that slot filled, and then you can just focus on refining and making your front end client acquisition system more efficient to feed your production.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a much more compelling conversation. Like you mentioned, if someone's looking to build a $2-3 million home, but that's a year or 2 years out. If they know you're booking into the following year already, they're much more, ready to kind of maybe start that process even preliminarily with you, put down some sort of retainer deposit to start engaging some sort of design service when they know like, oh, I can't just wait a year and then call this builder to do my project. I need to start working with them earlier on. So lots of benefits there, definitely by having those systems and building the business structure that's going to facilitate, like you said, it's not overnight, but you put these pieces in place and these different systems in place, and now you're building a business that's going to stand the test of time and have consistency and all those good things. So what's maybe your last word of advice or words of wisdom that you would like to anything else that you'd like to mention or tell our listeners today?
Well, I guess a couple of things, and I have this conversation a lot, is yes, should you be using video? Absolutely. Are your competitors going to start using video? Yes, they will. So if you get into video in 2026, you can definitely take some captive or take some market share from your local competitors. Video is like anything else, is that, over time you get more impressions, more views. There's some memory points there that you don't get with written content or even images. So yes, you should take the leap into video. It's not expensive. Okay, so that's really important. The other thing that I talk a lot about is that this is the time of year where people are putting together marketing plans and usually say, well, I need more leads. Okay, so that's a question. Rick, I need more leads. right? Can you run some ads? Can you do this? It's like that's the last place you should start. Okay. So when you're putting together your marketing plan right now, what you want to focus first and foremost on is your happy clients, getting more referral business from them. For leads that have already engaged you, that never converted, going back, re-engaging them, reactivating them because they're already aware of you. You don't have to spend any money on that. It's just a matter of, reaching out to them. Then focus on, again, your virtual showroom or show home, model home. Look at, again, that website that you have and everything that goes into it is really the reflection of your value proposition that you put forth. So your first marketing dollars should go there. Again, that's the build. That's where you want to build and focus on that first. Then move into attracting more opportunities digitally, as well as offline marketing to get more people to your website, and online marketing. The last place, Derek, that we usually recommend our clients go to, it's going to be paid ads and paid social. Because why? It's the highest cost of attracting opportunities with the lowest return on investment. So you want to, that's the cherry on the sundae, but you want to go after the low hanging fruit, the things that don't cost a lot of money, have a very high return on investment, and also bring you high quality leads. Your high quality leads, they may come through an ad, but there's a lot more that come through a direct search or an organic search or even an AI search. Now. So that's really where you focus on first. So don't start with ads, do the basics first, and calling up, 10, realtors in your market or interior designers or architects, wherever it is, and establishing a relationship with you will get you way more return on investment than you'll ever get from a paid ad or a paid social.
Wonderful. Great advice. Thanks for laying that all out there. Thanks for coming on here, Rick, and sharing your advice, encouragement to get started with video if you haven't yet, or optimize your video content. It's going to become more and more relevant.
And one thing I should throw out there, Derek, is that we will, if you want, you can go to our website, go to our video section. We'll create a free video for you, and you can choose between 3 different types of videos. You can see how this AI works free of charge, just so you can try it yourself. So feel free to do that, and you can put that in your notes as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, go check out the links in the description here. Click through, go get yourself a free video, and check out everything that we got going on at Builder Lead Converter. Thanks again for coming on, Rick. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. My pleasure as well.